It's hard to believe that this is Josh Allen's first interception from last season. The ball couldn't be better placed, but Isaiah McKenzie lets it bounce off his chest and it goes straight to the linebacker. Allen made the perfect read and the perfect throw. He even put the ball low so that McKenzie had the chance to protect himself and the ball from the linebacker coming across the field to cover him. But when you lead the league in turnovers, inevitably some of your teammates will contribute to that total. Allen is a big play quarterback. He makes aggressive decisions and chases chunk plays, so it's not a surprise that he led the league in turnovers last year. It's a trade-off for him being able to hit 98-yard touchdowns. Allen had 19 turnovers during the regular season last year, one more than anyone else despite playing one fewer game than 8 other starters. He had 23 total turnovers when you include the playoffs, 17 interceptions and 6 lost fumbles. We can mark the first one against the Rams down as not his fault, but what about the rest? This is the second interception against the Rams. The defense shows 2 deep safeties and has a linebacker threatening to blitz, which would leave the slot receiver to the right side uncovered. The safety to the top of the screen will predictably come forward at the snap, but the slot receiver will stay in and the linebacker doesn't blitz, but rather drops into an underneath zone. Allen looks past the 2 defenders in the middle of the field for Jamison Crowder on his intermediate crossing route. Crowder has space in front of his route, and the cornerback he is running towards is following the outbreaking route towards the sideline, so he's safe. Allen must lead his receiver across the field, away from the cornerback who's lost a step on Crowder chasing him through his route. The end zone angle shows us that Allen recognises the safety rotation during his drop back. He looks for Stephon Diggs' outbreaking route, but only pump fakes to him to keep the safety to that side. This creates the space for Crowder. But Allen doesn't put the ball in front of his receiver. He throws it to Crowder's body so the cornerback can undercut it from behind and make the play. Allen did everything right except make the throw, so that goes down as the first interception of the year that was his fault. He kept clean for a couple of weeks after the Rams game before meeting the Baltimore Ravens in week 4. The Ravens blitz Allen. They keep 2 safeties deep, send the slot cornerback from the top of the screen, and drop the 2 linebackers from over the centre. Allen will look left of the snap where his curl route will come open. He correctly diagnoses the coverage and begins his throwing motion at the perfect time to hit his receiver. The pass protection is great too, but from the end zone angle we can see that Calais Campbell is clearly dropping into the passing lane. Allen doesn't see that. He throws the ball low and hard, thinking that he can hit the window, but it goes straight to Campbell's hands, who deflects it off course to the waiting cornerback outside. It's fair to argue that Allen was more unlucky here than reckless, but quarterbacks are generally expected to see potential obstacles in the passing lane when they're as far away as Campbell was. There's no questioning Allen's interception against the Steelers a week later. We see the safeties rotate in response to the motion before the snap. Allen checks the safety in the middle of the field before turning to the wide side where he has Gabriel Davis in a one-on-one outside the numbers. Davis gets to the right side of the cornerback covering him and is expecting the ball to be thrown to the back pylon. Allen misjudges the throw though, and he throws it to the receiver's back shoulder near the near pylon, so it's in the perfect position to be picked off. That's another play where he did everything right and just simply missed the throw. Against the Green Bay Packers, we're going to see a different type of interception. It's 3rd and 9 and the Packers defense is in a cover 0 blitz alignment. The Bills are set up to attack it, keeping a 6th blocker in and working route combinations over the middle of the field. But the defense is actually playing zone coverage with 6 defenders dropping off and 5 players rushing the passer. This confuses Allen when he hits the top of his drop. The drag route underneath is open, but it's far too short of the first down line and there's a defender in a position to come up and stop it. The deeper route over the middle has drawn 3 defenders at this stage of the play. Allen has an open receiver to the top of the screen, but he's uncertain of the coverage and concerned about being undercut by the defender to the inside of that route. From the end zone angle, we can see Allen looking in the direction of that defender from a clean pocket. The quarterback runs out of that clean pocket and then looks back against the grain of the play for the backside route. He doesn't see the defender standing on the logo directly in his passing lane. Allen throws the ball straight to him for the interception. That's a very poor play from the quarterback. Allen's second interception in this game came in the red zone, and we again see him run out of a clean pocket to shut the field in half. But this time there's a clear difference. This time the turnover isn't actually his fault. This is the point of the play where Allen decides to throw the ball. He's expecting Gabriel Davis to keep working back towards him, which is what the receiver is supposed to do in this scenario when the play has been extended. But at the same time Allen is about to start his throwing motion, Davis is pushing off his left foot to go away from the quarterback. Allen even throws the ball low to protect it from being intercepted, but since Davis isn't where he's supposed to be, the defender can cradle underneath the ball and protect it for the interception. That one definitely wasn't Allen's fault, so 2 of his interceptions so far aren't his fault. That's a significant percentage. He followed up the Packers game with another 2 interceptions against the New York Jets. The first is straightforward. Allen bootlegs out of the pocket into the right flat. He looks for his underneath receiver who is drifting upfield towards the end zone. Allen stares this option down but somehow doesn't see the defender undercutting the route. He again throws the ball straight to the opposition, a defender in his passing lane with no justifiable explanation. The second interception requires a little bit more detail. It's another scenario where Allen is confused by the defense showing an aggressive blitz look look before the snap, but dropping out of it into coverage at the snap. The defense initially shows double A-gap pressure, which lends itself to a cover 0 blitz, but both of those inside linebackers are going to drop into coverage, so the defense is not only not blitzing, they're also playing zone coverage instead of man coverage. Allen hits the top of his drop and his eyes go to the left side of the field. He has a shallow curl route that he can take instantly as a check down. It's admitting defeat, but the defense won this matchup because none of the routes are going to come open, so he should have taken that check down. The routes at the top of the screen may as well not exist here. That half of the field is shut down. His only other option is the receiver to the bottom of the screen, wide of the numbers, who has to break to the sideline if he's going to find any space. You can see Allen wind up the throw and then stop. It's not a pump fake this time. He's hesitating because he's uncertain of the coverage he's throwing into. That's proven by how his pass goes nowhere near its intended target downfield and is instead caught by the waiting cornerback. We can mark both of these interceptions down as Allen's fault, so the post-it note in the corner switches to 6. It's 4th and 2 against the Minnesota Vikings. The Bills have a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter, and a touchdown here would probably seal the game. When Allen hits the top of his drop, none of his receivers are open. They ran a variation of mesh concept, and the Vikings defense had the perfect coverage to shut everyone down. They also have an edge rusher coming past the inside shoulder of the right tackle, forcing Allen to act instead of waiting for someone to come open in a clean pocket. He does well initially to escape into the right flat, but he needs to settle once he does. Instead, he rapidly moves towards his sideline, which shuts the field down. It closes off the space for his receivers that he's trying to throw to. It's easy for the defense to swarm the space, and Allen never sees Patrick Peterson undercut his route for the interception. The first turnover kept the Vikings in the game. Allen's second interception to Peterson in overtime gave them the victory. The Bills were in a great position to win this game. It was over a minute left in overtime, 2nd and 10 with 2 timeouts. A touchdown wins the game and a field goal ties it. Allen was under no pressure to force a throw here. The Vikings don't disguise anything. They show cover 4 before the snap and play cover 4 after the snap. Allen's routes are aggressive, with 3 attacking the end zone, 1 eligible receiver staying into block, and 1 running an out route to the top of the screen. Allen hits the top of his drop and has another excellent pocket to work in. He has space and time to survey the defense and make the right decision. He locks onto his post route and uses a pump fake to try and move the safety out of the passing lane. Allen's pump fake moves the safety, but it also encourages Peterson to cut underneath the route from the outside. From the end zone angle, you can see that Allen's throw is too wide and too shallow. To give this receiver any chance at making a play on the ball, Allen had to rifle it through that window to the back of the end zone. It would have been an exceptional throw if he made it. He obviously didn't. NFC North opponents proved to be a constant problem for Allen. Next up is the Detroit Lions and the Chicago Bears. Allen is somewhat unfortunate once again against the Detroit Lions when a defender gets in the passing lane on an RPO design. The defender makes a great play on the ball before his teammate comes in to catch it. The Bears show quarters coverage, or cover 4, before the ball is snapped on this play, but the safety towards the top of the screen rotates down when the ball is snapped. Allen seemingly recognises this as his eyes are in the general area of that defender who comes forward. He should understand from this point in the play that the defense is playing cover 3. Allen lets the play develop for a moment and stands in a clean pocket. His eyes go to the deep crossing route. That receiver is not open. We can clearly see the backside cornerback coming into the play from the end zone angle. When the play rolls on, we can see a familiar thing. Allen hesitates just before he releases the ball. He seemingly recognises his mistake but can't stop himself from throwing the ball anyway. Because of that hesitation, the ball lacks velocity, and it's placed too far inside, so the safety would likely have intercepted it if the cornerback hadn't got to it first. That's a pretty bad turnover, but the second interception against the Bears is absolutely baffling. It's so much worse. It's Allen's most inexplicable and indefensible turnover of the year. Allen starts the play under center. He executes a play fake then turns around in a clean pocket. The play design didn't work as nobody is open, but the pass protection is great, so he's under no pressure to do anything. He can hold the ball and wait for someone to come open, he can look to scramble, he can do whatever he wants. The end zone angle emphasizes the quality of his pocket before he looks left and right to find an open receiver. Nobody is open, so he throws to his check down, but the ball is nowhere near its intended target and is easily caught by the linebacker. All 3 of those NFC North interceptions have to go on the quarterback. As noted on the first play against the Bears, a trend throughout this video was Allen winding up the throw, hesitating for a split second, then throwing the ball anyway. It's been the catalyst for a couple of interceptions, and this interception against the Patriots is another example of it. He has Stephon Diggs open in the timing of the play, but he holds the ball too long to invite the incoming pressure onto him. He ends up rushing the ball out late and throwing it to nobody in particular. Nobody was open apart from Diggs either, so it's not like he was chasing a bigger play than what the defense gave him downfield. The defense gave him nothing and he somehow came away with less than that. That's the end of the regular season. Allen was responsible for 12 of his 14 interceptions in the regular season, but the playoffs is a different story. He had 3 interceptions in the playoffs, but only 1 of them was his fault. That was the first of the 3. Again, we see Allen show hesitation cocking the ball to throw it twice before heaving it aimlessly downfield. This ball always favours a safety as the receiver attempts to redirect just to get close to the catch point. Cole Beasley came out of retirement to play for the Bills again during the season. His ability to separate wasn't there anymore, and that shows up here on this deep curl route against man coverage. Allen cycles through his reads and locates Beasley in good time. The receiver can't separate through the defender at the top of his break, then stops to try and body catch the ball instead of working back through the catch point like he should. This is what leads to the turnover. It's definitely not Allen's fault this time because he threw an accurate ball in good time. For his final interception of the season against the Bengals, it was a Hail Mary desperation situation where he had no real choice but to heave the ball downfield. That's not a play you blame the quarterback for. He's trying to score points to get back into the game. It's worse if he threw the ball away or scrambled just to pad his stats. You'd rather your quarterback try to win the game. All in all, 4 of Allen's 17 interceptions last season weren't his fault, and 1 of his 6 fumbles wasn't his fault. That means 18 of his 23 turnovers were on him. Of course, that's only one part of the story, but you definitely can't blame Allen's teammates or his supporting cast for his recklessness last season. This is the fumble that wasn't on him against the Miami Dolphins. His left tackle stumbles, so Allen is hit at the top of his drop when he had set his protection to keep him safe in that specific area of the field. But that's the only play where he can blame his teammates. Too many times Allen's ball security is a problem because he's reckless holding the ball. He either holds it away from his body or holds it in one hand, or he's not aware of the hit that's arriving. When you're being talked about as the best quarterback in the NFL and put up alongside Patrick Mahomes, your standards have to be very, very high. Allen still makes plenty of plays to offset his turnovers, but his turnovers last year were not reflective of a quarterback being dragged down by his supporting cast or someone who was just unlucky. That suggests these problems will continue to move forward. If they do, he'll have to remain on a tier with the likes of Matthew Stafford rather than being compared to Patrick Mahomes or the best quarterbacks in the league.